referred to kind of influencer fighting, as you termed it earlier on. We were doing our live show, our live stream, SO Live, earlier today. And one of the viewers made the point that with Tyson struggling against Francis Ngannou, coming hot on the heels of his brother Tommy struggling equally against KSI, who's got very limited boxing background at this point, does it make it seem like boxing's almost too accessible, too achievable? Will the man on the street start to think they can beat the best fighters?
Right. So back in the 90s, there used to be the Tough Man contest, which was very popular. And those that follow boxing for a long time remember a figure whose name was Bud, who was a very successful and very interesting guy to watch, and was the king of the 4-rounders. And Bob Arum, being in his peak as a promoter back in those days, saw kind of that niche and that interest. And to a very small extent, those things are interesting. So Jake Paul, who is, I would call him an influencer boxer, because he's really trying boxing. He's doing real training camps. He has real trainers. He's really trying to get better. However, everybody else, I would say, maybe there's one or two other guys that are giving it a try, but not many. They barely know how to stand. They don't train. They don't respect the sport of boxing as it should be respected. So it's influence of fighting. It's not influence of boxing. And many of these guys wouldn't win basic amateur tournaments in very limited cities and very limited states in the United States. So, and I think it dilutes the honor and the great sport of boxing at its highest level. So I respect guys like Jake Paul, who are really giving it a good try, and who, again, do real training camps and hire real trainers and get real sparring partners and really pay the price of what it is to be a fighter. But all the other stuff is just a sideshow. And me, as a boxing purist, I love the sport of boxing. And that's the reason why I'm in the business of boxing, because I love the sport so much. I'm not a fan of it being publicized as boxing. It's fighting, and maybe it's a good business, and people want to come and see it. But I don't think that translates back to them being boxing fans and following the sport of boxing. And I gotta say, one of the reasons why it has grown to such an extent over the last several years is because now Showtime is leaving the sport of boxing. HBO has been gone for some years, and I think if you see the correlation between HBO being gone and influence of boxing growing, you'll see that them going away and the trend of influence of boxing kind of came across at the same time, because HBO was a great storyteller. Real fighters were influencers. They were celebrities. People that lead a normal life, don't really box for a living. Boxing is a tough sport, and all of them have great stories that many can relate to, and they come from different communities, different backgrounds, had different challenges to be as great as they turn out to be. So, and HBO, from business, from their business core of their business, to the broadcasters that talked about the sport of boxing, really were able to bring out the message and get the fans interested. Jim Lampley just did a bit of a stint for Canelo's fight, which was on Showtime pay-per-view, and it was so great to see him back. And he talked about what a great fight Arturo Gatti versus Mickey Ward was, and the way he spoke about it, the nuances and the details and the soul of the sport that he understood and that he's able to relate to the fans is priceless. And those are the people, that is the professionalism and the responsibility that made the sport of boxing grow. And now we're kind of in a place where that hole has not been filled yet, and there's a great potential for it to be filled, but it's not filled yet. And that's the reason why you see guys that I've never heard of before, they go on social media and they talk about their fights and they make fun of it, and they make fun of boxing, and they don't even know how to stand. They don't even know how to jab. They know how to throw a right hand. And I'm saying, I respect anyone who gets into the ring, but it's not boxing. It's fighting. And the sport of boxing, the sweet science, is a great sport. World championship fighters that fight each other, that fight at a high level, there's nothing like it. There's no spectacle like it. And and I believe that there's great potential for it to come back, better than bigger than ever, because we have something to look forward to. We have something to learn from, but I do believe that we're as a sport, we're in a bit of a challenging phase with Showtime getting out of boxing here in the United States. So yeah, I think there may be a bit of a recession, but hopefully the right people see the opportunity and put it all together and make boxing great again.
And we'll talk about Showtime momentarily, but just on the note, you said you're a boxing purist. I like to think I am also. How do we, as boxing purists, explain to our non-purist friends someone like a KSI pushing a professional fighter in Tommy Fury all the way, or even Ngannou pushing Tyson Fury all the way?
Well, these are two differences. Tommy Fury has a great name, comes from a great family, is a nice guy. I've met him, myself, and I like him. But he is limited as a fighter, and he's making the most of what he got. So Tyson Fury versus KSI, to me is as far as it goes. But then there's the undercard of all the other guys that I've never heard of before, and many of them don't know what the hell they're doing, honestly, like from a boxing point of view. So KSI and Tyson Fury is a nice addition when there's lots of championship boxing going on, either on a card or it's a standalone fight. It's a nice addition to draw attention to the sport of boxing as something that's interesting, that's out of the box, that happens once in a while. But it's not. But to me, influencer fighting is not influencer boxing. It's not a sport. There is no amateur boxing program. There is no way to get into the initiation. Is if you have 1 million followers on Instagram, then you become an influencer boxer. But that's not, But that's not. And if you talk a little bit of trash, then you're, then you got the resume to step into the ring. But that's not how it should be. I don't think that it makes the sport grow. I think that besides it being, a very short-term business venture, I don't see it helping the sport of boxing grow. Adding to it and adding significance and when this interview comes out, I would like to see what the boxing fans think about it and comment on what I just said.
I'm sure they won't be shy in coming forward with their opinions. They're not normal.
And I want to say, and the great thing about the sport of boxing in the UK is that, and it's quite interesting actually, because I think boxing in this day and age is strongest in the UK, just in terms of fans being involved and loving the sport and loving it passionately, and really knowing the sport of boxing. But at the same time, some of the influencer fights, besides Jake Paul, are most significant in the UK. So it's very interesting. I wonder if those fans that come see those fights also watch boxing. So you guys can comment on this as well. I'm talking about the boxing fans. Comment on that as well. I wonder if the boxing fans are interested in the influencer fights. Jake Paul or Logan Paul versus KSI versus Fury. That's like, that's close to the real thing, so to say. I mean, it's
gray
fun,
area.
But, yeah, the gray area, right? But then there's like 10 or 12 other guys that I've never heard of before that go on social media and make fun of their own fights, and that's like, to me, it's disrespecting. It's a level of disrespect to all the young kids who are now grown men who spend days in and days out making weight, and learning how to jab, and learning how to throw a right hand, and getting bruised up, and they make, whatever, I'll say $1,000 a fight, and these guys make millions of dollars. So, yeah. So I think that we need to, from my point of view, we need to figure out a way to strengthen the core of the sport of boxing and to be able to tell the stories and to make it popular and to make real fighters influencers. And I believe that once that happens, it can happen in a very short period of time. The sport will grow, bigger and better than ever.